Hello and welcome to Cooking the Books with Heather. On today's episode, we are going to be cooking once again from Ashley Christensen and Caitlin Golan's It's Always Freezer Season. And I'm going to be making, again, caramelized onions. So we made it before, the R-rated onions from This'll Make It Taste Good by Vivian Howard. I'll link that up here. Didn't work so well for me. I had to mess with the heat a little bit. It took a while to get them caramelized. This one is a little bit different, so hopefully it will work for me. I have thinly sliced these onions. There are a lot of them. You can see my Dutch oven. She says in a large heavy pot or Dutch oven. Got all of these onions. It is a lot. It's even more than the ones for the R-rated onions. And it's supposed to make like a half cup more at the end. But we're first gonna start by combining the salt with the onions off of the heat. And I'm gonna give it a stir. That's not quite all the salt yet, but I'm gonna give it a stir here just to kind of get the salt dispersed a bit, stirred in. And I'm gonna add the rest and then give it another stir. There we go. So I'm going to stir this up a little bit and we're going to let this sit off of the heat for 10 minutes. That will help start drawing some of the moisture out of the onions. And so I guess when we start cooking them, it won't take as long for the moisture to come out. I don't know. Whatever. That's what we're doing right now. We're just going to let this sit for 10 minutes. And then we will meet you over at the stove to actually cook these caramelized onions. So we'll be right back. Our onions have been sitting with the salt for 10 minutes and you can see that they have a little more moisture on them. And now what I need to do is add extra virgin olive oil. We're just pouring it right on top and then we're going to mix it in just to coat the onions with the oil a bit. I'm trying to stir them up from the bottom. That's why I got this sort of sturdy wooden spoon instead of my usual silicone spatulas. And now I'm going to turn this heat on to high. Not power boil, but high, and we're going to wait until it just starts to steam. Yep, till steam begins to rise from the pan. So we're gonna wait for that right now. I am starting to see steam coming up from the pan. It might be a little bit hard to see for you guys, but I'm definitely starting to see that. So I'm going to turn the heat down to medium, cover it, and we're gonna let this go for 20 minutes undisturbed. So we'll see you back in 20 minutes. So this has been sitting here undisturbed at medium heat for 20 minutes. So now I'm going to take the lid off and it's supposed to, a lot of moisture is supposed to escape when I do this. And I'm going to use a hot pad because that is very warm at this point. And yes, definitely steam. And so now I'm supposed to turn the heat up to medium high and cook, stirring constantly for 15 to 20 minutes until it's all caramelized. Now, this is where I'm a little bit concerned because there's still a lot of onions in here and only really the bottom will get caramelized. And in the book, she says uncover the pots, plural. And as you lift the lids, lots of moisture will escape. So I'm like, there's no indication that you should separate this into two pots. I don't know. I don't know if that's a typo or if there's something not included. I tried to look it up online and it's not out there anywhere just yet. So we're just gonna keep doing this and hopefully it will caramelize. Hopefully with it being at high heat, we'll get a little bit better, medium high heat. We'll get a little bit better caramelization than we got with the other recipe which tried to caramelize at a lower heat. But basically at this point, I think we really have to get all of that liquid out. However, if it starts to stick and burn, we're supposed to put water in a tablespoon at a time. And she says it could be up to 2 cups of water. So now we're just trying to caramelize these. So 10 minutes on, still has a lot of liquid in here. The onions look fully cooked and nice and soft, but there's no caramelization yet. We're still kind of waiting for all of that liquid to evaporate, boil off. So I'm not stirring it constantly right now because it's not browning on the bottom yet. So I'm just kind of coming back every so often and waiting for this to happen. So 10 minutes in, I think it's going to take us at least 20. We'll see. Okay, so we are 20 minutes in now, and we are still not seeing any browning. There's still quite a lot of juice here, but we're gonna keep cooking. All right, so we're finally, I let it go for a little bit, and we're finally starting to see some brownness happen on the bottom. So now I think I'm gonna have to stir it way more often. You're starting to see it actually turn colors. Finally, I think we're like 25 minutes in. Minutes in, we're at least starting to get color, so that's good, but we're still cooking. So we're gonna keep stirring, keep cooking. Okay, I think we are 40 minutes in, just about, and still waiting for the deep amber color, but it's getting a little bit darker every time. I feel like I need to not touch it for a little while for it to actually get browner on the bottom. So I'm letting it go a little bit, stirring, letting it go a little bit and stirring. So now, so this has been about 55 minutes and I'm gonna call it good here. It's not super dark, but I think it's a little bit darker, and I definitely am going to call it at this point because I think that's probably good enough for me. It's getting harder and harder to, I mean, it's definitely thick and sticky, and I think that it is probably done. So I'm going to add just a little bit of water just to make sure I get all of the dark caramelized bits off the bottom and cook that for just a couple more minutes until it's not watery. And we're gonna call that done. I'll let you know what I think about this recipe in just a minute and show you what this looks like when we've got it all packaged up for the freezer. On this episode of Cooking the Books with Heather, you watched me make caramelized onions from It's Always Freezer Season by Ashley Christensen of Pool's Diner and Caitlin Golan. And this was after I tried another caramelized onion recipe from Vivian Howard. This one worked a little bit better for me. I liked that she kept the heat high after and didn't cook it with the lid on for quite as long. And when you took the lid off, you kept the heat higher than the other recipe. And because of that, it took less time, although it still took me like 3 times as long as she said. I was a little confused because there is mention of putting things in one pot and then uncover the pots and lift the lids. So I assume if I had separated this into 2 pots, because it is a lot of onions, it probably would have cooked a little bit quicker because there would have been less liquid to have to evaporate after you've cooked the onions. But I will definitely do this method again, because I just don't think my onions needed as much time with the lid on as the Vivian Howard recipe, R-rated onions, required or asked for. I think they were done way before that, and this one took a lot less time. So with both recipes, you end up with 2 to 2.5 cups at the end, which is enough for several, different recipes. I froze mine in 1/2 cup portions. Last time I used almost all of what I had because mine reduced a little bit more than she said. So I used almost all that I had in the Pinch Me Frenchie bread recipe. So I didn't actually get any in my freezer from that one. So I froze mine in small plastic containers. You could use the any size ice cube tray really that you want, but it might end up making your ice taste funny if you want to use it also for ice. So I would keep like a food one. So you could use it really large ones that would hold about 1/2 cup, or smaller ones and just take those out. Either way would work just fine. Whatever works for you would work fine in these. Onions freeze and defrost very, very well as far as cooked onions. So there's no real worry about that. She says they will freeze for 3 months. Honestly, I will go longer than that probably, unless, we end up using them. And just either thaw them in cold water, she says, or in the refrigerator. Mine probably overnight for that small of amount, maybe a little bit longer, but yeah, I would certainly use this method again. I might not make quite as many. It was a lot of onions, but then it all cooks down. So we'll see how I'm feeling the next time I need to make caramelized onions. If you enjoyed watching me make this, give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and come back and watch me make something else next week. Probably with these onions.